What is up, YouTube? Dottz Gaming here, and welcome to my Magicka Nightblade VMA build, Knight's Guardian. So obviously, as you can tell, this build is intended for completing Veteran Maelstrom Arena, and as you can see by my Stormproof title, this is the build that I personally used when I beat Maelstrom Arena for the first time. Now guys, this setup is not intended to get you some sort of crazy high score or some sort of crazy super fast time. I made this build able to be used by someone who's just, newer to VMA, whether it's, maybe your first time doing it or your second time doing it, within your first couple of times doing it. And this build is going to be forgiving should you make a mechanical mistake within the instance. Now, naturally, as you learn VMA and you get more proficient at it, your score and your time are going to naturally increase and decrease respectively, and this build will be an easy one for you to progress with. And also, as time goes on and you feel like, all right, I get the hang of this instance, I'm ready to step it up a little bit, all you need to do is take off one of the harness magickas, because I double bar it, whichever bar you prefer, and replace it with a damaging ability. But it's going to, vary from person to person what you feel like you need, but simply replace harness magicka with some sort of damaging ability, which will increase your DPS, which will obviously make your time shorter and your score higher. So I think that this build is something that you can use from the beginning all the way up to when you're trying to get higher scores. And now, keep in mind, Magicka Nightblade is the second easiest class to run VMA on behind Magicka Sorcerer, so this is going to be a really user-friendly build for you to work on, where it's not going to be the build so much that you have to worry about, but simply the mechanics of the dungeon and focusing on actually beating the bosses in the different levels and stages of VMA. Now, let's move right into it. We're going to start with the gear. So for my monster set, I did get a lot of criticisms about this, but it's what I like and it's what worked for me. I am running 2 pieces of Infernal Guardian. The reason I chose Infernal Guardian over let's say Grothdar or Valkynscoria is because I personally put much more value on having that one piece, like almost 1100 max magicka from Infernal Guardian than I did from the health on Scoria. I much preferred the max magicka. I also felt like through my testing that I was proccing Infernal Guardian more than I was proccing Valkynscoria. I don't run a lot of dots in this build. I think I might run one. I'm not sure if Elemental Blockade counts as a dot. I believe it does, but that's one. That's one dot in the build where you double bar harness magicka. You're using your shield constantly. So I felt for me, Infernal Guardian fit the build the best. Just based on how I was playing and how I liked it. Another thing I got was, why don't you use Grothdar? I like to play at a range. I like to be able to just play at a range and focus a target down, and I felt that Infernal Guardian was able to be more conducive to that type of playstyle than Grothdar would have been. So like I said, I wasn't the largest fan of Scoria or Grothdar. I just think that Infernal Guardian is better than both of them for this build specifically. So that is my reasoning behind why I used Infernal Guardian. Now, my 5-piece is going to be Julianos. I love Julianos. It's such a solid set. It's just really good. And it was the first thing that came to my mind when I was deciding what 5-piece I wanted to run for the build. So Julianos is what I went with. Now, keep in mind, guys, all of your gear pieces are going to be Divines, all Magicka enchanted, and your chest is going to be heavy, and your legs are going to be medium. Now, in terms of our jewelry, I am running the Necklace of Willpower. So we are running Willpower. I'm running 1 Healthy, 2 Arcane. 2 of these have spell damage, and 1 has Magicka Recovery. I personally think you do not need more than 1 piece of Healthy. I would recommend running at least 1 piece of Healthy. If you think, you don't need the Healthy and you can go straight Arcane, be my guest. But I think personally for the build, running 1 piece of Healthy is very nice. So that is what I ran for my jewelry. The front bar staff, kind of a dead spot. I ran I just have a gold Juliano staff, so that is what I ran. If you already have a Maelstrom staff, like a Maelstrom Inferno staff, go ahead and place it here. But this spot is kind of dead, so if you just have any sort of gold staff, you can just place it right here. But we do go infused with the weapon damage enchantment. And then we are actually on our back bar. We are going dual wield swords on our back bar, and we are using 2 pieces of Torrig's Pact to just give us even more spell damage on that back bar. Now, in terms of traits, I have infused, as you can see. If I was optimally trying to make this, I would probably go one piece Nirnhoned and then one piece Sharpened. And I would say in terms of enchantments, it's really not the end of the world. You can really do whatever you want in terms of enchantments. They're not going to be using them all that much. You could maybe do like deals magic damage and restores stamina, and maybe like a crusher or something, or shock. You could even leave shock, and then maybe do magic damage and restore stamina. But these really aren't a huge deal. The main reason we have the swords is just for the extra spell damage when it comes for our executing, because Impale is going to be on our back bar. And then speaking of abilities, let's move right into that. So our spammable for the build is Swallow Soul. It's just, man, it's bread and butter. It's just bread and butter. It's so cheap. It heals you, gives you minor vitality, increasing your healing received by 8%. It's a no-brainer that this is going to be the spammable for the build. Now, our main AoE and our only AoE is Blockade of Fire. I like to play very single target when I do VMA. I like to focus on taking down one opponent at a time. But Blockade of Fire does deal a lot of damage. Burning enemies take 20% additional damage. You are using an Inferno Staff, so your enemies are going to be taking tons of damage. So, and plus it combos well with the ultimate. So I figured Blockade of Fire would be a really, really good choice for our AoE in this build, much better than Twisting Path. Now, Merciless Resolve, obviously here for minor Berserk, the 8% damage increase for 20 seconds, and then our big burst attack when we do those 5 light or heavy attacks to change the ability into Assassin's Will. That Spectral Bow will hit like a truck and is going to be your bread and butter for when you are trying to do your bursts on the various ads or on the bosses. Merciless Resolve is going to be very, very, very key for that. Now, I run Harness Magicka on my front and my back bar. I never wanted to be caught out in a situation where I didn't have a shield. You obviously are going to be running Harness Magicka over Dampen simply for the Magicka sustain, and I would recommend having this obviously on both your front and back bar. Inner Light, again, just for Max Magicka and Major Prophecy, it's literally just a flat damage increase. And we also get the Mages Guild passives. And what's cool is that if you're going to be using like a big DPS ability, a big damage ability, simply pop Inner Light, gain the Empower from Might of the Guild, and then go ahead and use your abilities such as the Spectral Bow, and it's going to deal significantly higher damage. So that is something else to keep in mind. Now, our ultimate is Elemental Rage. This thing hits super hard. I had a couple people tell me that, oh, you should use Soul Tether, or oh, you should use something else, but I'm sorry. Elemental Rage is so good, because there are going to be some situations where, yes, you need big AoE. You need big damage. I think for the majority of VMA, I like to focus down single targets at a time, but there are going to be some situations where you get a whole bunch of ads clumped up and things need to die fast. Things need to die really, really quick. And that is where Elemental Rage is going to come in. Even in a single target situation, having this ability to drop and just lay waste to everything caught within it is going to be key. Combo that with the Blockade of Fire. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. Things are just burning, and it, in my opinion, is the best ability for your front bar here. Now, on our back bar, we have Sap Essence. Sap Essence acts as an AoE spammable. It acts as a heal, and it's our source of my major sorcery. I didn't want to use spell power pots in VMA. VMA, you die a lot. Spell power pots are expensive, so I wanted an ability that gave me major sorcery, and I felt that having this on my back bar gives me an ability to give me like a nice burst heal if I have a bunch of ads around me. Gives me like a nice burst heal, and then I could shield up. So I just like Sap Essence on the back bar. I think it's really good for an AoE spammable. Then you also have Impale. Impale is going to deal so much damage on this bar because you have so much spell power. You have so much spell power on this back bar. So Impale is just going to hit super, super hard. That is going to be your execute. It's so nice to have an execute when you're doing VMA. It makes a lot of the burning that you need to do on certain fights much easier. It makes killing ads much easier. It's just like a 25% health debuff on everything that you're fighting. It just, in my opinion, having a tool like Impale in your kit for VMA makes the instance much easier. Siphoning attacks is going to be our major sustainability. This combined with Harness Magicka, I had 0 Magicka issues throughout the entirety of VMA. I did not have any Magicka issues because of this and because of Harness Magicka. So I'm telling you, stick this on there. You will have no problems with your Magicka. It'll also heal you every time you deal light or heavy attack damage, which you will be doing plenty of because you will be weaving for a Merciless Resolve. So you're healing yourself from Swallow Soul. Your light attacks are healing you from siphoning attacks. It's just, you're just getting healed. So it makes it a lot easier for you to stay alive. We also, again, have Harness Magicka on the back bar. Like I said, the reason I double bar it is because I never want to be caught without my shield. I want to have my shield for whenever I need it, no matter if I'm on my back bar trying to execute something, if I'm on my front bar trying to fire off my bow and just weave and lay down my blockade. I always want to have my shield available just in case I mess up. Something's about to hit me. I step in poison. Like, I wanted to have my shield ready for me at all times. And then also, again, Inner Light in the back bar to maintain the Major Prophecy buff that we get, maintain the Max Magicka buff that we get, as well as all of the Might of the what's it called, the passives from the Mages Guild, using it for Might of the Guild and whatnot. So that's what I like to have this on my back bar. And then the back bar ultimate is Soul Harvest. I like to have Soul Harvest as my back bar ultimate because it is with Impale, so as you're executing things and killing them, you will be gaining ultimate. Now, the only time I would say you should use Soul Harvest over something like Fiery Rage is if you do not have enough ultimate for Fiery Rage and you need to kill the boss. Like, you are like, it is execute phase, I'm killing this boss. If you watch my clip from VMA, my final boss clip, I do use Soul Harvest during the execute. I use Soul Harvest, that's 15k damage right there, non-crit, and then that boss is taking 20% additional damage for 6 seconds, which means that all of my impales are hitting 20% harder. So that is something to keep in mind. It really is the only time you're going to use it. It's mainly for ultimate generation, but in certain situations in a pinch, it is very, very nice to have a really cheap ultimate that'll increase your damage when you are trying to execute a boss. Now, in terms of our Mundus Stone, we are running the Apprentice. The Apprentice simply gives us the most damage, being that we are running Divines, full Divines. The Apprentice just gives us the most damage, so we are running that. In terms of being a vampire, I would recommend it. I like having Undeath, and I also like having, of course, the extra 10% regeneration to my Magicka and Stamina. I think it's just really, really nice thing to have. I would recommend playing as a Stage 2 Vampire, so if you can get some of that Double Bloody Mara to maintain yourself at Stage 2, that would be cool. If not, just be prepared to take that extra fire damage. Just that's something that you need to keep in mind, and something that you need to be prepared to deal with. But if you can, I would try to make sure that you maintain yourself at Stage 2. In terms of our potions, we are just running Trash Magicka potions. That is what I ran. You can run whatever you want. If you want to run extra crit damage, if you want to run Major Profs or Major Sorcery and don't run Sap Essence, go ahead. I felt like for VMA, with how many potions I chug, the amount of times I died, I didn't want to spend money on super expensive potions. I just got some Trash Magicka potions and just drank those for resource sustain if I needed it at any point. In terms of our buff food, we are using the Witch Mother's Potent Brew. Again, just to round off our Magicka recovery, max Magicka and max health. I liked to have all of this recovery just because I never wanted to be in a situation where I lost or I died on a stage due to the fact that my resources were not there. Because that happened to me when I did like a little bit of VMA on my DK, like a little bit, just to kind of test the waters and see what it was like. I wasn't doing it really with the intent of doing a full run. I was doing it just to see, you know, what does VMA really have for me here. And when you don't, it is a soul-crushing feeling to die because you don't have resources. So I wanted to make sure that I always had my resources sustained and I always had Magicka available to do the things I needed to do. Now, in terms of CP, I'll do CP. I'll put CP up on the screen, and then I'll cover my stats. Now, I do not have max CP. I only have like 450 CP currently. But if I was to have max CP, this is what I would use. From the mage trees, we have 66 points in Elfborn, 36 points in Spell Erosion, 56 points in Elemental Expert, and 72 points in Master at Arms. I do not put any points into Thaumaturge. I don't think it's needed for this build. You do not run enough dots, in my opinion, to make it worth it. So I focus super heavily on my crits, being that we are sitting at 53% crit. I like to... run all those points into Elfborn, and then of course Master Arms, because we just deal so much direct damage that I just think it's the best way to go. For our green trees, we have 49 points in a Warlord, 62 points in an Arcanist, 56 points into Tenacity, 37 points into Tumbling, and then 26 points into Shadow Ward. And then for the red tree, we have 37 points in Ironclad, 49 points in a Hardy, 49 points in Elemental Defender, 49 points in a Thick Skinned, 26 points in a Spell Shield, and then 20 points into Bastion. So that is what I'm running for champion points. Champion points are very customizable. You can completely change those. You don't have to run what I ran. CP is very, very individual, but a lot of people like to know what the creator builds ran, so that is what I aimed for when I was using my CP. Now, in terms of my stats, guys, like I said, this is going to be unbuffed stats. Keep in mind, I am at CP 451. I don't even have all the CP placed on this guy because I've been leveling up on my DK. So take these stats for what you will. On my front bar, we're sitting at 41k max Magicka, 16k max health, and 10k max stamina. We have 1633 Magicka recovery, 642 stamina recovery. We have 2459 spell damage on the front bar, and then 51.3% spell critical. We have 12.6k spell resistance and 9.5k physical resistance. On the back bar, the only thing that changes is our spell damage goes up to a whopping 2825, and then our spell critical sits at 53.3%. But that is the build, guys. That is what I ran when I did VMA. Honestly, when I was running VMA, I had a bunch of people trying to tell me, oh, Dottz Gaming, your build is why you're losing. Your build is why you're not doing so good. Your build is why you're dying. Your build is why this. Your build is why that. And I told them all that they were all wrong. This build, in my opinion, is very easy to play and very capable when playing VMA. I never felt at any point I needed to worry about my abilities. I needed to worry about my resources. The build just felt really easy to play, and I was able to focus on just the mechanics of the instance. And I knew while I was playing that my reason for dying wasn't because I wasn't doing enough damage. It wasn't because I couldn't sustain my resources. I was dying because I was making mechanical mistakes. And it's a good feeling to know where your issues lie when you're doing something as challenging as VMA. Because I know a lot of times when people do these challenging instances, they're like, oh my god, is it my build? Is it something I'm doing wrong? Is it this? Is it that? But when I was playing, I truly felt that my pitfalls and my mistakes were in me as a player and what I was doing mechanically and not in the build. Now, people do like to ask for a rotation. The rotation is super simple. All you need to do, maintain siphoning attacks, maintain Merciless Resolve, simply weave Swallow Soul, place down Blockade on as many enemies as you physically can, and just literally weave Swallow Soul. That's it. Fire off the Spectral Bow when it procs. Obviously, at the beginning of a fight, if you can, use Sap Essence first to gain that major sorcery and then go into that rotation. So it would be buff up, so Merciless Resolve, siphoning attacks. You would use Sap Essence, switch bars, and then, of course, weave Light Attack. Just weave Light Attack, you know, we're having a great time, we're having fun, VMA makes us want to cry, bow, and then that's it. When that enemy gets below 25% health, just impale, and that's it. That's the build. Like, that's how easy it is. Being that you do run Inner Light and Harness Magicka on both bars, you don't have as many abilities to really worry about. Granted, yes, it gives you a little bit less to work with, which is why, like I said, this build isn't for some sort of super crazy fast high score time. This build is just for the completion. This build is just made to be forgiving so that if you make a mechanical mistake, which the first couple times you do VMA, you're going to make plenty of mechanical mistakes. And this build will allow you to make those mistakes and not die. That is what I tried to do here. So you always have Harness Magicka available to you wherever you are, and then you could use Elemental Rage as needed. But that's it for my build today, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this and you try this out for yourselves. If you do, let me know how it went, and I hope you guys have good success at VMA, and I wish you tons of luck. My first time took me 4.5 hours, lots of deaths, but you know what? It was really, really fun, and it feels good to be able to wear the Stormproof title at the end of it. So thank you guys so much for watching the build. If you liked it, please smack a like on it. If you want to see more build guides, more good ESO videos in general, and some cool streams, I'd appreciate if you hit that sub button, as well as hitting the little bell next to it to always be notified of when I do things here on YouTube. So thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I will see you all in the next video.